Elior had always been fascinated by the stars. Ever since he was a little boy, he would lie on the roof of his small home on the Ardent 5 colony and stare at the sky. Unlike most kids who played holo games or explored the forests near the colony, Elior spent hours imagining what might be out there. He wondered if anyone else in the vast universe could see him, think like him, or feel the same longing for connection. His parents often told him he dreamed too much, but he couldn't stop. There was something in the stars that called to him. By the time he became 17, Elior had learned everything he could about the alien species rumored to inhabit the outer regions of the forest. The elders often told stories about the beings that could move faster than the eye could see, that had strange shapes, shimmering eyes, and powers humans couldn't understand. Most colonists avoided the forest entirely, fearing the unknown. But Elior felt drawn toward it. One evening, after finishing his chores at the colony lab, he decided to explore deeper into the woods than he ever had before. The forest was dense, full of trees with silver leaves that glittered under the twin moons. Strange sounds echoed in the distance, cries of nocturnal creatures and the soft hum of unseen life. Elior's heart beat faster, a mix of excitement and fear. He held a small flashlight in one hand and a sensor device in the other, hoping to detect something extraordinary. Hours passed, and nothing unusual happened. Just when he was about to turn back, a faint glow appeared through the trees. It was soft, almost like a tiny sun floating above the ground. Elior's curiosity overpowered his caution. He moved closer, stepping lightly on the forest floor to avoid snapping twigs. As he entered the clearing, he froze. There, beside a small pond that reflected the glowing moonlight, crouched a figure. At first he thought it was another colonist, but the figure's shape was unlike anything he had ever seen. She was humanoid, but not human. Slender, with translucent skin that shimmered with the colors of the night. Her eyes were silver, large, and liquid-like, reflecting everything around them. Her hair seemed to float slightly, moving as if touched by an invisible current. Elior's breath caught. He wanted to speak, to introduce himself, but the moment he stepped closer, she stiffened. Her eyes widened in alarm, and before he could say a word, she let out a scream, a sharp, piercing sound that seemed to shake the leaves around them. A human. "Run!" Elior froze, shocked. Fear mixed with confusion and sadness. He had expected curiosity or caution, maybe even anger, but never terror. And yet he couldn't run. Something about her fear made him feel even more determined. He wanted to show her he meant no harm. "Wait, I'm not here to hurt you," he said softly, taking careful steps toward her. The alien girl's eyes darted nervously to the shadows of the forest. She whispered something in a language he couldn't understand. A mixture of clicks and soft tones that sounded musical yet urgent. Elior tilted his head, trying to understand, but he realized that words would not work here. Not yet. Hours passed as they circled each other carefully. She would crouch low and step back whenever he came closer, and he would lower his hands, trying to seem smaller, less threatening. The forest around them was alive with the sounds of night creatures, and the soft hum of her aura seemed to vibrate in the air. Despite the tension, Elior felt a strange connection forming. She was frightened, yes, but also curious. As dawn approached, painting the sky with shades of pink and gold, the alien girl paused near the edge of the pond. She watched him silently, her body tense, her silver eyes shimmering with emotions Elior couldn't yet name. He felt a surge of hope. "I want to understand you," he said, his voice gentle. "I don't want to hurt you. I just want to know who you are." For a moment, nothing happened. Then slowly she lowered her crouch and allowed her eyes to meet his fully. There was still fear there, but it was tempered by curiosity. Elior took a small step closer. "My name is Elior," he said, trying to keep his voice calm. "I'm human. I think we can be friends if you let me." The alien girl tilted her head as if processing his words. Then she took an almost imperceptible step forward, her eyes never leaving his. Elior smiled softly. It was a small gesture, but in that moment it felt monumental. He realized that trust, fragile as it was, might be possible. For the next few hours they stayed in the clearing. Elior spoke softly, telling her about his home, his life, and the stars. He made no sudden movements, no threats, only quiet words and gentle gestures. Slowly she began to mimic some of his movements, sitting when he sat, tilting her head when he tilted his. It was slow progress, but progress nonetheless. By the time the twin suns of Ardent 5 peeked over the horizon, she made a small gesture. She extended a hand, long and delicate, with fingers that shimmered like glass. Elior hesitated, then gently placed his hand against hers. It was the first real contact, a fragile bridge between two species. He felt a warmth not in his hand but deep in his chest. This simple act was more than touch. It was connection, proof that fear could be overcome even between beings so different from each other. She didn't speak, and he didn't expect her to. Words were not needed here. They had found understanding in silence. Elior looked around the forest and noticed things he hadn't before. The trees weren't just silver. They pulsed softly with light as if responding to her presence. Small creatures with glowing eyes peered curiously from the bushes, but none approached. It was as if the forest itself recognized this moment as special, sacred even. He realized then that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, and there were countless beings out there who would fear humans just as she did. But if he could learn to communicate with her, to understand her world, maybe humans could bridge the gap between species. Maybe humans could become more than just explorers or invaders. They could become friends. The alien girl finally made a small noise, almost like a sigh, and pointed toward the forest path leading back to the colony. Elior understood. She was not ready to leave with him, but she was willing to guide him in her world. It was a tentative trust, but it was trust nonetheless. Elior nodded, careful not to startle her. "I'll follow," he said. And so together, they moved slowly through the forest, step by careful step. She led, and he followed, learning her language not with words but with gestures, glances, and shared understanding. That night, Elior returned to the colony alone, but he was changed. His heart was full of hope and wonder. He had met someone extraordinary, someone who had first seen him as a threat and yet by the morning allowed a connection to grow. And in the quiet of his room, staring at the stars, he whispered to the night, "I will find her again." The stars seemed to twinkle brighter that evening, almost as if they were listening. Elior could not stop thinking about the alien girl. Every moment he spent in the colony felt hollow compared to the wonder he had felt in the forest. Her eyes, silver and deep, haunted his thoughts. He wondered what she was thinking, what her world was like, and why she had screamed at him the first time. That fear, so raw and powerful, had shifted into something fragile, something he wanted to understand. The next evening he returned to the forest, careful to bring supplies, a small pack with water, food rations, and a notebook for sketches and notes. His parents had asked where he was going, but Elior only said he was exploring, which was partially true. Deep inside, he knew he had found something extraordinary, something he could not ignore. The forest was quieter than the night before. The silver leaves glimmered faintly in the moonlight, and the air smelled fresh like rain and earth. Elior moved slowly, listening for the soft hum he had sensed before. He paused by the pond, the place where they had first met. His heart leapt as a shimmer of movement appeared near the water. There she was, the alien girl crouched at the edge of the pond, her silver eyes watching him carefully. Her body tensed, ready to flee, but she did not scream this time. Elior lowered his hands and smiled. "Hello," he whispered. "It's me, Elior. I didn't hurt you yesterday, did I?" She tilted her head, a motion that seemed almost thoughtful. She made a sound, a musical trill, unlike anything Elior had heard before. He noted it in his mind, trying to match it with words he knew, but it was impossible. He realized that language would not come easily between them. Elior decided to start with gestures. He pointed to himself. "Elior," he said. Then he pointed to her. "You." The alien girl hesitated but mirrored his gesture, pointing to herself. Then she made another soft sound, almost like a whisper. Elior smiled, heartened. This was progress. Over the next few hours, he tried simple gestures, pointing to objects in the forest, drawing symbols in the dirt, and miming actions like drinking or eating. She watched carefully, then began to mimic his gestures. When he showed her a small fruit from the forest and mimed eating it, she hesitated, sniffed it, and then took a bite. Her expression changed, surprise, delight, then cautious pleasure. Elior laughed softly. "See? It's safe," he said. Hours passed, and the alien girl began to relax slightly. She allowed him to move closer, though still cautiously. At one point, she touched his hand for an instant, and he felt a jolt of warmth. It was not just a touch, it was a message. Trust. Elior noticed more about her world as they spent time together. She moved with grace, her body almost gliding over the forest floor. She seemed to sense the energy in the trees, the wind, and even the small creatures around them. The forest, he realized, was alive in ways humans could not understand, and she was a part of it. "Do you live here?" Ilior asked softly, pointing around. She made a sound and pointed toward a hidden path leading deeper into the forest. He nodded. "I see. You have a home here," he said, careful not to sound intrusive. He wanted to know more, but he also understood that patience was essential. Trust could not be forced, and every gesture had to be gentle. He remembered her scream from the first day and understood why it had happened. Humans were unpredictable, often loud and careless. He would have to show her that he was different. Days passed, and Ilior returned to the forest each evening. He began to bring small gifts: fruits, a piece of shiny metal from the colony, a small mirror. She seemed curious about these items, touching them, tilting them in the light, and occasionally mimicking the way he held them. Their silent communication grew stronger. One evening, after weeks of careful gestures and shared moments, something remarkable happened. Ilior had set up a small drawing board and a stick for writing in the dirt. He drew a simple circle and pointed to himself. Then he drew a smaller circle and pointed to her. She tilted her head, made a soft trill, and drew a line connecting the two circles. Ilior's eyes widened. She was trying to communicate. The line between the circles, he realized, was a symbol of connection. She wanted to be linked to him. His heart pounded with emotion. This was more than understanding. It was a bond forming between two beings from different worlds. "Thank you," he whispered. He felt tears prick at his eyes, but he smiled. She blinked at him, her eyes reflecting the moonlight. She didn't understand the word, but she seemed to understand the feeling. Over the next few nights, Ilior learned more about her language, or at least the patterns of her communication. She would point to objects, make sounds, and sometimes sketch shapes in the dirt. He began to respond using gestures and sounds of his own. It was slow, painstaking work, but every day brought progress. He also learned about her habits. She liked to stay near water, often crouching beside ponds or streams. She seemed to absorb energy from the plants and trees, leaning close to touch leaves and hum softly. Ilior realized she was deeply connected to the forest, almost like it was part of her being. The more he observed, the more he respected her world. One night, during a rare quiet moment, he sat beside her at the pond. The moonlight glimmered on her skin, and for the first time she allowed him to be completely near her. He extended his hand slowly. She hesitated, then placed hers on his. The connection felt electric, not in a frightening way, but in a way that spoke of understanding. "You're not like other humans," she said finally, not with words, but with a soft vibration that resonated in Ilior's mind. He understood the feeling perfectly. She was saying, "You are different. You do not frighten me." Ilior's chest swelled with emotion. After weeks of fear, mistrust, and distance, she had allowed him close. They were building something remarkable, a bridge between worlds. But he also knew danger lay ahead. The colony had rules. Humans were not supposed to interact with the alien species. Stories told of humans who had been attacked or driven away, and for all her trust, she could never fully predict what humans might do. Ilior had to be careful. He had to protect her, and in doing so he realized he had already begun to care for her deeply. The next day he returned to the colony to gather supplies. He made small preparations: a journal for recording their communication, extra rations, and simple tools for drawing and miming. But when he returned to the forest that night, she was nowhere to be found. Panic surged in him. He searched along the pond, the hidden paths, and even the tall silver trees. But she had vanished. A cold fear gripped his chest. Had he lost her? Had she fled because she no longer trusted him? Then a soft sound reached his ears, a trill, low and musical. Following it, he found her crouched behind a cluster of glowing plants. She looked at him, silver eyes wide, but not with fear, this time with caution and curiosity. Ilior stepped forward slowly. "I was worried," he said softly. She tilted her head, then slowly emerged from her hiding spot. She allowed him to sit near her again. Ilior felt a wave of relief. Their bond, fragile as it was, had not been broken. They were still learning each other's worlds, still building understanding one small step at a time. As the moons rose high in the sky, they sat together in silence. Ilior sketched shapes in the dirt, and she mimicked them. He made soft sounds, and she responded with her musical trills. Slowly, patiently, They were learning to speak across the impossible gap between species. Elior knew this was only the beginning. There were challenges ahead, fear from other humans, the difficulty of understanding a completely different species, and the dangers of the forest itself. But for the first time in his life, he felt a hope that was stronger than fear. Somewhere in the universe, he thought, there was someone who understood him, and he understood her. And that knowledge was more precious than any discovery, more exciting than any star he had ever seen. He looked at her silver eyes reflecting the light of the twin moons, and whispered, "We will understand each other. I promise." And though she could not speak the words back, her soft trill felt like an answer. Yes, we will. The forest around them seemed to hum in approval, as if acknowledging the first fragile bridge of trust between human and alien. Elior realized that this moment, this slow, careful building of friendship, was a miracle. It was rare, precious, and more beautiful than anything he had ever imagined. And in that moment, he knew one thing for certain. No matter how impossible it seemed, they would find a way to truly connect, step by step, sound by sound, heart to heart. The forest of Ardent 5 had always been quiet at night, except for the natural hum of life, the rustle of silver leaves, the occasional call of nocturnal creatures, and the soft rush of water from the streams. But that night something felt different. Elior noticed it as soon as he stepped onto the forest path. There was a tension in the air, almost like the forest itself was holding its breath. He had been visiting the alien girl every night for weeks now. Their bond had grown stronger with each meeting, their communication improving through gestures, sounds, and shared observations. She had even begun to respond to some of his soft words, her trills becoming slightly melodic when she was pleased. Elior had never felt such a deep connection before, not with anyone. And yet, he knew that trust, as fragile as it was, could be shattered in an instant. As he neared the pond, he saw her silhouette crouched near the water, glowing faintly in the moonlight. Relief flooded him, and he moved forward carefully, waving his hand softly in greeting. She responded with a trill that sounded almost like laughter, and he smiled. For a moment, everything seemed perfect. Then a snap of a branch echoed through the trees. The alien girl froze instantly, her silver eyes wide with alarm. Elior's heart skipped a beat. The sound was not natural, it was deliberate, heavy, and moving closer. He signaled for her to stay calm, but she shrank back, almost invisible among the glowing foliage. "They're here," she whispered, though it was more a vibration in his mind than words. Elior understood immediately. Something or someone was approaching, and she feared it. Elior glanced toward the forest path. Two figures emerged from the shadows wearing dark suits that reflected no light. He had never seen humans in the forest at night, and these were not ordinary explorers. The suits were designed for stealth, with helmets that hid faces and devices strapped to their arms. Elior's stomach tightened. "Who are they?" he thought frantically. The alien girl made a low trill and pointed to Elior. It was a warning. Stay close, stay hidden. He obeyed immediately, crouching beside her. She moved silently, her body gliding over the forest floor as if she were one with it. Elior tried to follow, careful not to make a sound. Every leaf under his foot felt like it could betray him. The intruders stopped near the pond, scanning the area with devices that emitted faint blue lights. Elior held his breath as he realized they were searching for something or someone. His mind raced. If they discovered her, if they tried to capture her, she could be in danger and he might not be able to protect her. The alien girl reached out and took his hand. The touch was urgent, a silent command to follow her deeper into the forest. Elior obeyed, letting her guide him through hidden paths he had never noticed before. They moved like shadows, twisting between glowing trees and leaping over streams. Elior's heart pounded, but he did not falter. He trusted her and she trusted him. After what felt like hours, they reached a small cave hidden behind thick vines. The alien girl gestured for him to enter, and he crouched low to follow. Inside, the air was cool and damp, and faint bioluminescent plants lit the walls with a soft green glow. She turned to him, her silver eyes filled with concern. "They will not leave easily," she said through vibrations. Elior understood immediately. These humans were persistent. They would search until they found her. And if they did, she could be taken away. Elior's mind raced. He had to think quickly. He looked around the cave for anything that could help them hide or defend themselves. The alien girl touched the glowing plants and they flickered, blending her form almost perfectly into the surroundings. Elior marveled at her ability to hide, but he knew it might not be enough. "They have machines," he whispered. "We need a plan." She tilted her head, then made a soft trill that vibrated through his chest. He understood the message, "Trust me." She would lead, and he would follow. As they waited in the cave, the sounds of the intruders grew louder outside. Elior could hear their footsteps crunching on leaves, their voices low and controlled, the faint hum of their scanning devices. He shivered. This was the first time he truly felt the danger of their bond. Up until now, their only obstacle had been fear and misunderstanding. Now a real threat loomed. The alien girl pressed her hand to the cave wall and the vines outside shifted, creating a natural barrier. "They do not see," she vibrated. Elior nodded, holding his breath as he watched the intruders pass by the cave entrance, scanning the ground where he and the alien girl had just been. Minutes felt like hours. Elior wanted to speak, to reassure her, but the cave was silent except for the soft trickle of water and the faint hum of the plants. He realized that words were useless here. Only presence mattered, only trust. Finally, the intruders' voices faded into the distance. Elior exhaled slowly, feeling the tension drain from his body. The alien girl looked at him, her silver eyes shimmering with relief. She let out a soft trill that sounded almost like a sigh of gratitude. Elior smiled, knowing that they had survived together. But he also knew the danger was not over. These humans were not ordinary explorers. They had resources, knowledge, and determination. If they returned, the alien girl could be in grave danger. Elior had to be ready. Over the next few days, Elior and the alien girl worked together to strengthen their bond and improve their communication. They developed new gestures, shared small meals, and explored the forest quietly. Elior learned how she moved, how she sensed the energy of the plants and water, and how she could disappear almost entirely when she wanted. She began to respond to some of his words, recognizing his voice as safe. One evening, while sitting by the pond, Elior asked softly, "Do you trust me?" The alien girl tilted her head, her silver eyes reflecting the twin moons. Then she extended her hand toward him. It was a simple gesture, but Elior understood. She trusted him completely. Elior's heart swelled. "I'll protect you," he whispered. "No one will hurt you while I'm here." She made a soft trill, almost like a laugh, and leaned slightly closer to him. It was a small victory, but in that moment it felt monumental. They were no longer just two beings from different worlds. They were allies, friends, perhaps something even more. But the forest was not entirely safe. The intruders had left clues, footprints, broken branches, and faint signals from their scanning devices. Elior realized that they would likely return, and next time, they might be better prepared. He had to think strategically. He spent the following days creating small traps and warning systems using the forest itself. He tied thin threads to leaves which would fall if someone passed through, and placed reflective stones to alert him of movement. The alien girl watched him with curiosity, learning from his actions and helping where she could. Together, they turned the forest into a living shield, blending human ingenuity with her natural abilities. One night, as they rested near the glowing pond, Elior looked at her and said softly, "We make a good team, don't we?" She tilted her head, then reached out to touch his hand. The touch was gentle, reassuring, and full of unspoken understanding. Elior smiled, realizing that even in the face of danger, their bond had grown stronger. Fear had turned into trust, and trust had turned into something deeper. But Elior also knew that the intruders would not give up easily. He had seen the determination in their movements, the way they searched relentlessly. He understood that one day, their patience and cunning could bring them back. When that day came, he and the alien girl would need to be ready, not just to hide, but to protect each other and survive. For now, however, they were safe. And in that moment, surrounded by the shimmering forest, the glowing pond, and the quiet hum of life, Elior felt something he had never felt before. Hope. They were different. From different worlds, and yet they had found a connection. They had faced fear, built trust, and created something extraordinary together. And Elior knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them side by side. The forest seemed to recognize this bond. The leaves shimmered brighter, the water glowed softly, and the creatures of the night moved quietly around them, as if giving their silent approval. Elior looked at the alien girl, her silver eyes reflecting the moonlight, and whispered, "We will face everything together. I promise." And though she could not speak words, her trill seemed to say the same. Together. The forest was quiet in the early hours of the night, the kind of quiet that felt alive, almost as if it were holding its breath. Elior moved carefully along the hidden paths, following the soft glow of the alien girl's skin. He had learned to read her subtle signals, how she moved, how she stopped, how she glanced behind them when danger might be near. She was cautious, but she trusted him enough to guide him through the forest without words. For weeks they had been building a routine. Each night, Elior would sneak away from the colony, carrying supplies and notes, and meet her at the edge of the forest. They had developed their own language of gestures, sounds, and sketches, learning more about each other every evening. But tonight felt different. There was a tension in the air, something Elior could not explain. As they walked, the alien girl paused suddenly, her silver eyes widening. She pressed her hand against the ground and made a low trill vibrating in Elior's mind. He froze, trying to listen. Somewhere deep in the forest, he heard the faint hum of machinery, an unfamiliar, mechanical sound that did not belong to the natural world. "They're back," he thought immediately. The alien girl's movements became quicker, sharper. She led him through twisted paths, over streams, and under glowing plants, her body almost gliding over the forest floor. Elior struggled to keep up, his heart pounding, but he trusted her completely. He had learned that hesitation could be dangerous. She knew the forest in ways he never could. The mechanical hum grew louder, and soon they caught sight of the intruders. The same humans in dark suits from before, but this time they were prepared. Their scanning devices lit up the forest in faint blue beams, searching for any sign of movement. Elior ducked behind a tree as one of the beams passed, holding his breath. The alien girl signaled for him to follow her into a narrow crevice between two cliffs. It was tight, almost impossible for him to move through, but he squeezed himself in, feeling the rough rocks scrape his arms. She went ahead, her body almost folding perfectly to fit through the space. Once inside, she looked back, her silver eyes urging him to hurry. They emerged into a hidden grove, the kind of place humans rarely discovered. Bioluminescent plants glowed softly, casting green light over the moss-covered ground. The alien girl crouched, pressing her body against the soft moss, and gestured for Elior to do the same. He obeyed, heart racing, as the intruders' voices echoed in the distance. "They're persistent," he whispered. "We need to move again soon." The alien girl made a soft trill, vibrating in his chest, signaling agreement. She led him through a series of hidden paths, moving swiftly, but silently. Elior marveled at her abilities. She could sense the energy in the forest, detecting dangers he would have never noticed. But even with her skill, the humans were closing in. The blue lights cut through the forest, scanning every corner, every shadow. Suddenly, one of the intruders spotted a faint shimmer near the moss. Elior's heart leapt. "They see us," he thought, but the alien girl was already in motion. She grabbed his hand and pulled him into a small tunnel hidden behind thick vines. Elior barely had time to follow. The intruders' footsteps sounded closer, louder, as if the forest itself were echoing their pursuit. The tunnel led to an underground stream. Water flowed gently, glowing faintly in the moonlight, filtering through cracks above. The alien girl crouched low, gesturing for Elior to do the same. They moved silently along the water, the sound of their breathing almost drowned out by the rushing stream. Elior's arms ached from holding himself low, but he refused to let go of her hand. She was his guide, his protector, and he knew that without her he would be lost. Hours passed as they navigated the underground paths. The alien girl's movements were fluid, almost like swimming on land. Elior had never felt so alive, so terrified, and so connected to another being all at once. Every glance, every gesture, every touch conveyed unspoken words: trust, caution, friendship, hope. Finally, they emerged into another hidden grove, one Elior had never seen before. Tall silver trees surrounded them, their leaves glowing softly. Strange creatures with delicate wings hovered near the treetops, watching silently. The alien girl crouched, signaling for Elior to stay close. "They're near," he whispered, though he knew she had already sensed it. The intruders had split up, moving in different directions to cover more ground. Elior realized that if they were discovered now, there would be no chance of escape. He felt a surge of fear but also determination. He had come too far, built too much trust, to let them fail now. The alien girl turned to him, her silver eyes reflecting moonlight. She pressed her hand against his shoulder, a gesture that conveyed both reassurance and urgency. Elior nodded, understanding perfectly. They would face this together, as allies, as friends, as something more. Using the forest to their advantage, they moved silently through hidden paths. The alien girl seemed to communicate with the forest itself, the glowing plants bending slightly as if guiding them, the creatures of the night moving aside. Elior marveled at her connection to this world. She was not just part of the forest. She was a guardian of it. But even with her skills, the humans were relentless. They moved with precision, scanning every corner, calling to each other in low tones and adjusting their equipment constantly. Elior realized that if they were to survive, they needed a plan, not just hiding but a way to outsmart their pursuers. He whispered to the alien girl, gesturing to a series of glowing vines. "If we can use those to distract them, maybe we can escape." She tilted her head, then made a soft trill, vibrating in his chest. He understood. She agreed. Together, they set their plan into motion. Elior gathered a few reflective stones he had collected earlier, tossing them along a hidden path to create false signals. The alien girl touched the vines, causing them to sway and glow, creating illusions of movement. The humans followed the false trails, their blue scanning beams moving toward the distractions. Elior and the alien girl moved silently in the opposite direction, their hearts pounding with both fear and hope. Every step was calculated, every movement precise. The forest itself seemed to protect them, bending light and sound to conceal their passage. Hours later, they finally reached a hidden waterfall. The alien girl gestured for him to rest beside the pool at its base. They were safe, for now. Elior sank to the ground, exhausted but exhilarated. The danger had been real, but they had survived together. The alien girl touched his arm gently, a silent gesture of reassurance. Elior smiled, feeling a wave of relief and gratitude. "We did it," he whispered. "We're still safe." She responded with a trill, soft and melodic, vibrating in his chest like a heartbeat. Elior understood. She trusted him completely, and he trusted her. Together, they had faced a danger greater than anything they had imagined, and their bond had only grown stronger. As they rested by the waterfall, Elior thought about the future. The humans would not stop. They would return, perhaps with more technology, more determination. But now, he had learned something vital. Fear could be overcome with trust, danger could be faced with courage, and connection could exist even between the most different beings. He looked at the alien girl, her silver eyes reflecting the glowing water, and whispered, "We can face anything, as long as we're together." She pressed her hand to his, a gesture full of meaning. Elior felt a warmth spread through him, a mix of hope, courage, and something he could not name, something that went beyond words. For the first time, he realized that this was more than survival. It was friendship, trust, and the beginning of a bond that could change both their worlds. The forest around them seemed to hum in approval. The leaves shimmered softly, the water glowed gently, and even the creatures of the night paused to watch. Elior knew that they had not only survived but had strengthened their connection in the process. And in that moment, as the twin moons rose high above the forest, Elior understood a truth he would carry forever. Sometimes, the greatest challenges bring the strongest bonds, and the most impossible friendships are the most precious. They were different, from different worlds, and yet they had faced danger together and emerged stronger. Elior looked at her silver eyes, shimmering with trust and intelligence, and whispered softly, "No matter what comes next, we face it together." The alien girl tilted her head and made a soft trill, vibrating in his chest. He understood perfectly. Together, and together, they watched the moonlight dance on the water, ready for whatever challenges the future might bring. The forest was alive with energy that morning. Silver leaves glimmered under the rising twin suns of Ardent 5, and streams sparkled like flowing glass. Elior and the alien girl had spent the night near the hidden waterfall, resting and planning their next steps. But even in the light of day, the danger they had faced the previous nights lingered in their minds. Elior had learned quickly that survival in this forest required patience, observation, and trust in his companion. The alien girl moved with a grace he could never replicate, gliding over rocks, leaping across streams, and disappearing among glowing plants when needed. And yet, despite her skill, she had chosen to stay with him. That choice, he realized, was the greatest gift she could give. It was trust, a gift far more precious than any treasure. They had agreed that today would be different. Elior needed to speak with the colony's elders, to warn them of the intruders and find a way to protect her. But more than that, he wanted to understand her world even more, to strengthen the connection they had built through gestures, sounds, and silent communication. As they moved through the forest, the alien girl suddenly stopped. Her silver eyes scanned the trees and her body tensed. Elior felt the familiar spike of fear. She had sensed something. From the treetops above, he saw shadows flicker. Figures were moving stealthily, scanning the forest floor. It was the intruders, and this time they were closer than ever. "They're coming," he whispered, though she had already communicated the warning through a trill that vibrated in his chest. Elior and the alien girl darted along a hidden path, slipping between glowing trees and under vines. Their movements were synchronized, silent, almost like a single being. He marveled at her ability to navigate the forest, sensing every ripple of energy, every hidden obstacle. But the intruders were relentless, their scanning devices glowing as they moved through the forest with calculated precision. Suddenly, one of the intruders spotted a shimmer near a stream. Elior froze. He realized they were being watched. The alien girl grabbed his hand, and without hesitation, they leapt into a dense thicket of glowing plants. The intruders' blue light swept past them, but the duo remained hidden, hearts pounding with both fear and determination. "This way," she whispered through vibration, leading him deeper into the forest. Elior followed, trusting her completely. Hours passed as they navigated the forest, moving from one hidden grove to another. The intruders never gave up, their voices and devices echoing faintly in the distance. Elior felt exhaustion creeping in, but he refused to slow down. She needed him, and he would not let her down. Eventually, they reached a massive cliff overlooking a valley bathed in morning light. The alien girl paused, her silver eyes reflecting both caution and relief. Elior knew immediately. They had reached a place few humans had ever seen, a sanctuary hidden by the forest's natural barriers. They crouched together, catching their breath. Elior looked at her, gratitude and awe shining in his eyes. "We've made it this far," he whispered. "Together." She tilted her head, pressed her hand against his, and vibrated softly, a wordless affirmation of their bond. Elior felt warmth and hope surge through him, but their respite was brief. From below he heard the faint hum of machinery, the unmistakable sound of the intruders preparing to ascend the cliff. Elior's heart raced. They had to move, and quickly. He looked at the alien girl, trying to communicate his plan through gestures. She nodded, understanding instantly. Together they would have to outsmart their pursuers, not just hide, but create a way to escape the forest safely. Elior picked up a handful of reflective stones from the cliff's edge. He tossed them down the valley, creating the illusion of movement. The alien girl touched the plants near the cliff, causing them to sway and flicker, casting shadows that seemed like running figures. The intruders spotted the distractions and moved toward them, leaving the cliff unguarded. Elior and the alien girl seized the moment. With careful, synchronized movements, they climbed down a hidden path along the cliff's edge, one that twisted and turned, shielded by overhanging rocks and thick vines. Halfway down, Elior slipped slightly. His heart leapt in panic, but she was immediately there, her hand gripping his. She pulled him back with a strength he had not expected. Her silver eyes locked on his. "Thank you," he whispered, breathless. She made a soft trill, a sound full of reassurance. It was a reminder. They were in this together. They reached the valley floor safely, moving quickly through tall silver grass. The intruders were still distracted by the illusions above, giving them precious time. Elior felt a surge of determination. He had to protect her, not just from the humans, but from any danger that might ever come to her. As they ran, he noticed signs of a settlement deep in the valley. Small structures made of natural materials, glowing softly in harmony with the forest. She gestured for him to follow, guiding him to a hidden clearing surrounded by towering trees. Elior realized they had reached a safe place, a sanctuary where she could remain protected. For the first time in days, they paused. Elior sank to the ground, exhausted but relieved. She crouched beside him, her silver eyes reflecting both caution and trust. He realized that this moment was not just about survival. It was about connection, about the bond they had forged through fear, trust, and shared danger. "I don't know what I would have done without you," he whispered. She responded with a trill that vibrated in his chest, a sound that carried gratitude, trust, and something more, something he could feel but not name. He reached out, taking her hand gently. The touch was simple, but it carried the weight of their journey, the fear, the danger, and the trust that had grown between them. Elior looked around the valley, thinking about the intruders and the challenges they had faced. The humans were relentless, but he realized something important. Courage and trust could overcome fear. They had faced danger together and had emerged stronger, not just surviving, but building a connection that transcended worlds. He turned to her, determination shining in his eyes. "We've come so far," he said softly, "and we're not done yet. I promise I will always protect you." She pressed her hand to his, a simple gesture that conveyed understanding and acceptance. Elior felt a warmth in his chest, a mix of hope, relief, and something deeper. They had faced fear, danger, and uncertainty, and they had done it together. For hours they rested in the hidden valley, sharing the quiet. Elior drew shapes in the dirt, continuing their silent language. She mimicked him, adding her own symbols. Together they built a communication that bridged the impossible gap between human and alien, creating understanding that words alone could not express. As the twin suns rose higher, Elior realized that this bond was not just about survival. It was about friendship, trust, and the possibility of something more. They had faced impossible odds, yet here they were, side by side, stronger than before. Suddenly a sound echoed from the forest edge. Elior's heart skipped a beat, but he stayed calm. The alien girl's eyes scanned the area, and she pressed his hand gently, signaling reassurance. Together they moved toward a cluster of glowing plants, creating a natural barrier between themselves and any potential threat. Hours passed without incident. Elior and the alien girl explored their new surroundings carefully, learning the rhythms of the valley and the energy of the forest. They discovered small pools of glowing water, plants with soft, luminescent leaves, and creatures that watched them curiously, but never approached aggressively. Elior marveled at the beauty and harmony of her world, understanding why she had chosen to remain here, away from humans. That evening, as the twin moons rose once more, Elior sat beside her at the edge of the valley. He looked into her silver eyes, reflecting the soft light of the moons, and whispered, "We've survived everything together, fear, danger, even the unknown, and we're still here." She responded with a trill, soft and melodic, vibrating in his chest. Elior smiled, feeling a deep sense of peace. They had faced the greatest challenges together, and their bond had only grown stronger. He realized that this was the true lesson of their journey. Connection, trust, and courage could overcome even the most impossible obstacles. The universe was vast and filled with unknown dangers, but with someone you trusted, someone who understood you, even the greatest challenges could be faced. Elior reached out, taking her hand once more. The warmth and trust they shared was more valuable than anything he had ever imagined. He had crossed the boundaries of fear, built a bridge between worlds, and discovered something extraordinary, a bond that transcended species, a connection that could survive any danger, any challenge, any distance. As they sat together, watching the twin moons reflect on the valley below, Elior whispered, "No matter what happens, we face it together, always." The alien girl leaned slightly closer, her silver eyes shining with trust and understanding. Her soft trill resonated in his chest, a promise without words. Elior smiled, feeling a sense of hope and wonder that he had never known before. Together they had faced fear, survived danger, and built a connection that would last beyond worlds. And as the stars shimmered above, Elior knew one thing for certain. They were no longer just human and alien. They were companions, friends, and something more. They had found each other in the vast universe, and nothing could ever take that away.